I mean, obviously, there's lots. I'm sure I'm not the first person. I'm not the first person to ask you about your lead actor today, but I mean, there's lots of focus on the fact that, of course, your lead in this movie is one of the world's most famous musical artists at the moment. But I'm just interested to know because he's obviously got. I've always one thing that's always struck me about Harry, Harry Styles, ever since he started off in kind of X Factor, is he's got to where he has now through incredible hard work. Was that what you saw here? Is that what you took from collaborating with him? He seems like a really diligent, quite hard worker.
He is. He's a grafter. There's no question about that. A proper worker. It started because he asked for a meeting, which is unusual in itself. No, most of the time, a director is in a room trying to convince an actor to play a role. It was rather glorious to meet somebody who wanted to convince me they should play the role. And but he'd already, by the time I'd met him, read the novel twice and the screenplay multiple times. He was able to quote lines without any reference to the script. He was able to talk eloquently about why playing Tom Burgess would be a great part of his evolution as a screen actor. And he was also able to talk very passionately about why the central message of My Policeman appealed to him enormously with such a young fan base and being able to get to as many people as possible. So it was all there in the very first meeting. So it didn't surprise me when we did start working together how much prep he'd done, how much physical prep he'd done in terms of getting himself fit and ready for the shooting period, how much backstory he'd created, a lot of backstory he'd created. I mean, it was, yeah, he is. You're quite right. He's completely focused in whatever. It's nice to be able to tell you that he isn't just focused in one area of his life, and then when he comes to another, there's less focus. I got clearly what he brings to everything that you recognized from those early days.
Yeah. So he memorized the entire script.
Well, no, he had to memorize his entire script from his point of view, obviously, to do it.
I mean, other people.
No, he'd already, he actually, yes. Do you know something? I noticed when he was in a scene with somebody, he certainly knew everybody else's, but that isn't too unusual. That is something that people usually absorb themselves completely in a scene. So yeah, but it's a great work ethic, that's for sure.
And I mean, it's such an important story you're telling, and it's delving into history and in the meantime, kind of celebrating love and the need for the freedom of who we can love, and having Harry Styles on board. I mean, hopefully that's going to bring in audience members who may not have discovered this film otherwise. Is that just a nice added bonus of having someone like that attached to your project?
It's slightly more than that. For me, Stefan, if I'm honest, because even in the 3 years since I've been attached to this project, I've found that the world has become less and less stable in the huge advances that have been made in my life. I was born into the England in this film when it was illegal to basically be who you are, and I'm very proud of the huge advancements we've made over the last 40 plus years. But I do feel it's a fragile time, and I think the extraordinary large base that Emma and Harry will bring of young people to watch this film, a generation, I might say, that for me are probably the most unprejudiced generation ever born, and I think to have them as ambassadors for this film, in that they can watch something and see a past that they may not have known about the law, they may not know what it was like, but they will certainly know that it would be a very bad move to go back to that. And they will certainly, therefore, hopefully be advocates about why we should keep continuing to move forward. If I'd have had any other actors in those roles, I might not have got that wide demographic watching it, but we have. And so it's slightly more than a bonus for me. It's part of one of the reasons to do it, is to try and, you don't want to make a movie like this with such an important central message and then only have it seen by a few people.
Yeah. Do you think the fact that you've called them the sort of most unprejudiced generation does that give you hope for the future?
It gives me hope for that generation, that's for sure. But unfortunately, it's another generation that are making our laws at the moment. And with Roe v. Wade just coming in America, and one of those Supreme Court justices saying, let's tackle gay marriage next, you know that there's a whole generation out there who aren't as unprejudiced as them and aren't as forward-thinking as them. And in fact, they would prefer us, wherever possible, to go backwards. And I think that's why we need that group on board. We need that group to get vocal. And one of the ways that can help, I hope, is for them to see that a film like this and to realize, no, we're never going back there.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thanks also for introducing me to a great Ella Fitzgerald song I hadn't heard before, which you put in.
Good.
Fantastic.
You
really that. But anyway, best of luck with the release of the film.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Stefan. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys! Hey, you guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,